So, as you know that there are two major concepts about the absolute reality. One is that absolute reality has no form. Another is that absolute reality has a form. And this has been a big topic of debate, especially in India, for thousands of years. So those who are Advaitavad people, their basic mantra is Soham. You might have heard that. Everybody has heard of this Soham. What does it mean? I am. I am what? I am? I am that. And that means whatever is. That means everything. So therefore, I am that means I am everything. I am supreme because everything means supreme. So that is the mantra of those who are followers of Advaitavad, or we call them impersonalists, monists. So they say Soham, I am that. And then there is another group of people, their mantra is Dasoham. They just add one Da before Soham. So it becomes Dasoham. Dasoham means that I am servant of that. So now there are two, because there is servant and there is master. There was a temple in India, temple of Lord Krishna. So when Advaitvadi came there, he saw Krishna. So he was amused by that. On the wall outside of the temple, he wrote down, right? He wrote Soham, that I am that. So this was very disturbing to devotees. He says, what is this nonsense? Soham. So the devotee came and he added Da before it. Right? Because this is a debate. Soham. So he said Da Soham. So next day, the Advaitvadi came to see, let's see what's going on. So he saw, oh, my mantra is changed. Soham became Dasoham. So he said, this is not good. So he wrote down and he add another Sa before it. So it became Sada Soham, which means I am always that. Right? Sada means always. Like here, Sada Shiva means Shiva who is always Shiva. So then he felt very happy that he has achieved something. Then a devotee came and he said, what is this? This guy is one step above me. He has made Dasoham as Sadasoham. So he added one more Da before it. So it became Das Dasoham. That I am servant of servant. And now you can go on with this debate. He can keep on adding Sa. So it will become Sada Sadasoham and it will say Das Dasoham. And there is no end to it. Right? So there was a big conference in India about 4,500 years ago. And about 80,000 scholars attended that. Because India had a lot of scholars in the olden times. Like these days, you have IT specialists coming from India. So all these IT type of guys in the olden days used to study philosophy. Now they came to IT. So previously they only worried about I. Now they're worrying about ITO. So it's just a little change. It's also added T to I. So IT means it. So in the olden time, people in India worried about I. Who am I? Koham. This is the question which Sanatana Goswami asked when he first met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His question was, Koham. Who am I? Because this is the most pertinent question in our life. If I don't know who am I, what the heck am I doing here? Right? If you are lost in the forest, you may know where you want to go, but you don't know where you stand. How would you go? Right? If you want to go somewhere, and if you have your tom-tom or whatever you call it, your GPS, so the GPS tells you are here. Right? If you want to study a map, they always have a point, you are here. Because unless you know where you stand, how do you know where you go? So it means something different from me, right? IT means it. So these IT guys are now worried about it, not about I. This is a problem. This is a shift in awareness, shift in our thinking. We have shifted our thinking from I to it. So anyway, the point is that about 80,000 scholars assembled, and the whole topic was that absolute reality is a person or impersonal. So obviously there was a big debate. Just like these days we have Olympics and so many sports people come, right? And they compete. So in India, they used to have Olympics of philosophical points. So then the champion of this Olympic was a person whose name was Ugrashrava. So he gave the conclusion. He said that absolute reality is neither personal nor impersonal. It is both. Because if something has to be absolute, it must contain both, right? If it is only personal and does not have the impersonal part, then it is only half. Then who has the impersonality? And if the absolute reality is only impersonal, then the other half is missing. So he said that absolute reality is containing both factors, both features. And he made a very important statement, which is very giving the gist. He says, Vadanti tat tattvidas tattvam yas jnanam advai. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdat. So he said that those who are knower of tattva, of the absolute reality, means those who have had experience of it. Because theoretically we can go on talking, but unless you have had experience of it, your knowledge may not be reliable. So he says those who have seen the tattva, who has had experience of it, who are aligned with it, what do they say? Vadanti tat tattvidas tattvam yas jnanam advaya. Says that this tattva is advaya jnana. Very two basic characteristics of absolute reality. He says that first of all, this reality is conscious. Absolute reality is not inert matter. So now science is saying that this universe came out from a point. Originally, there was a very condensed point of energy, and then there was a big bang. But actually, this does not make sense. And many scientists are raising this question that who did the big bang? Because unless you have consciousness, you cannot know the complete truth. That's why in quantum mechanics, they are unable to say whether it is wave or particle. It's dualistic nature. So even matter, when they go at a very subtle level, it becomes dualistic and it becomes subjective. The reality is not just objective. So if you want to understand reality, we have to bring subjectivity, which means consciousness, into picture. You cannot know anything without knowing yourself. Whatever you know is incomplete if you do not know yourself. So he says that the first characteristic of absolute reality is that it is a conscious being. Therefore, this idea that universe came from the Big Bang, from a very condensed point of energy, is also half truth. It's not complete because it is missing the conscious part. And second important feature of absolute reality is it is non-dual. Non-dual means that there is no other absolute reality which is like it, equal to it, better than it. Means this absolute reality has to be that which contains everything. If it does not contain everything in it, then it is incomplete. Purnamada Purnamidam, that famous mantra. When it is not Purnam, it is Apurnam. So therefore that absolute reality has to have both aspect in it. So he says Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdati. That it is Brahman and also Bhagavan. Both hands are there. So it has the aspect of Brahman for which they say Soham. And it also has the aspect of Bhagavan for which we say Dasoham. So now, are there two realities then? So he says no, Advayam. Otherwise we will think that there are two realities. So there cannot be two absolute realities. Because if there are two absolute realities, then one of them will become redundant, even logically. Because one is enough. Why do you need two? Then they will fight with each other. Either they are going to fight with each other or they are going to be in complete harmony with each other. If they are going to fight with each other, then one will win over and that one will become absolute. And if they are in complete harmony with each other, then it is as good as one. So absolute reality is only one. Ekam sat vipra bahudha vadanti. In the Rig Veda, it is said that the reality is only ekam, one, and that is called Advaya Gyan. So it just made or described in two words, Advaya Gyan, not very complicated. That it is non-dual and it is conscious, it is not inert matter. But it can be realized, experienced at two different levels. You can experience the same absolute reality as Brahman, which means as impersonal, and as Bhagavan, which means as a person. So these are only two experiences of the same reality. Reality is not two. So just as you may have seen, sometimes we have these holographic pictures, right? So from one side you see it looks like Radha Krishna. From other side you see it may look like Shiva and Parvati, right? So it is the same thing, but depending on where you stand, you find it Radha Krishna or you find it Shiva and Parvati. But the thing is only one. So reality is only one. Depending on where you stand, you can perceive it as Brahman or you can perceive it as Bhagavan. Now the question comes that are these two perceptions of same level or one perception is superior to another? Superior means one who has a better perception. So then it is described that one who understands the absolute reality as Bhagavan has a superior understanding than one who understands it only as Brahman. And why is that? So it's not that we are fanatic of Bhagavan and therefore we are saying. The reason for that is that the impersonal does not have the personal feature, but the personal feature has impersonal in it. Because impersonal feature is nothing but energy. So just like you have different types of energies, you have energy to think, you have energy to act, you have energy to wish, but that energy does not have a form. It is contained in you. So if I know you, then I can also know your energies. But if I only know your energy, then I don't know you as a person. So therefore, those who have Brahman realization, their experience is of the absolute reality only. There is no contention about that. But it is inferior to know the same reality as in its complete manifestation as Bhagavan. Because those who know Bhagavan, they naturally know Brahman. So I give this example many times that if you are in the plane up in the sky and you look at the Atlantic Ocean from above, then it looks to you just as one big blue piece without any variety, right? But when you come down and you go to the beach, then you see that there is a lot of variety in it. And if you go inside, you do scuba diving, then you understand that there is whole world inside that. So it is not that the ocean had changed. Ocean is same. But your experience of ocean when you see it from the sky and when you jump inside it are two different experiences. So similarly, those people who jump inside the absolute reality, they understand that absolute reality as much better than those who stay away from it. And what is the meaning of jumping in or staying away? The meaning is whether you want to have a relationship with it or you don't want to have a relationship. And relationship is only one, although you may think of many types of relationship like maybe employee and you have employer, that is also a relationship. But the true relationship is the relationship of love. So if you have love towards absolute reality, then that absolute reality reveals to you as Bhagavan. And if you don't have love for absolute reality, then that absolute reality reveals to you as Brahman. So it is the same absolute reality, but according to the desire of the practitioner, according to the desire of the sadhaka, it reveals itself. So as in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiv bhajamya mam vartmanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvasha. So as people approach to me, I reciprocate in the same way. So if you approach to the absolute reality with love, then absolute reality reveals you in love. Then he's a loving person. But if you approach him without love, then he also becomes loveless. So absolute reality without love is Brahman, and absolute reality with love is Bhagavan. So that is your choice, what you want. Do you want to become sugar or you want to taste sugar? Right? Do you want to become, what is that, rasmalai, or you want to taste rasmalai? There are two possibilities. You can become rasmalai, but then there's no one to taste it. Or you can remain you and you can taste it. So this is the difference between Advaitava, the path of Gyan Marg, and path of Bhakti. So on the path of Gyan Yoga or Advaitavad, they want to be one with Brahman. They do not want to have a reciprocation. They want to merge in it. And on the path of Bhakti Yoga, a devotee does not want to merge but remain separate and relish the relationship in love. So that is called rasa. So in Brahman, there is no rasa. It is nirasa or virasa, without rasa. So that's your choice whether you want rasa or you don't want rasa. So we are all looking for rasa. But sometimes what happens is that people become so frustrated with life that they don't care about rasa or anything like that. They just want to solve their problem. So recently somebody wrote me an email and he was saying that I'm so frustrated. He's a devotee. He says, I'm so frustrated with life. All the time so many problems are coming that I have no interest in bhakti. I want moksha. Moksha means liberation, which means getting inside. Brahman means no more problems. So he's so much disturbed that he just wants to solve the problem. Although your problem will be solved naturally if you have rasa. But when someone is too much troubled, then one does not think that deeply. So therefore this Advaitavad is also a process. We do not deny this. It is not that we do not accept Advaitava. Advaitava is also a school of philosophy, and it is also based on the Vedas. But Advaitava is not very fulfilling. And this is a question which was asked by Arjuna himself to Sri Krishna in 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Egam satat yuktaye tapasvam paripasike echapya raktam akshram sache tesham ke yoga mitram. And out of these two types of yogis, those who are worshipping your unmanifest, qualityless, formless manifestation, and those who are worshipping you in love, which one is better? So Krishna actually gives a very categorical answer. He did not confuse or be duplicitous or anything like that. He made a very clear statement that those who worship, they are superior. And those who are after the avyakta hi gatir dukkham, deha vadbhira vapti. It says that those who are following this formless, qualityless Brahman, they have to go through a lot of trouble. So, although he says that they are also worshipping me only, because after all, Brahman is non-different from him. Brahmano I pratishtaham. Says Brahman is also, I am also the support of Brahman. So, just like we have the sun planet, and then there is sunlight. So, Brahman is like the sunlight, and Bhagavan is like the sun. So, sun planet, the light is also there, emanating from that. But those who only want the light and not the person, then they only get that much understand. So that is the meaning of that the absolute reality is Advaigyan, non-dual consciousness. That there is no difference between Brahman and Bhagavan. Brahman is also an aspect of Bhagavan only, but Bhagavan is a superior understanding. Brahman is nothing but Bhagavan without qualities manifest. So just like if somebody is very intimate with you, then you reveal your heart to that person. But someone who is very indifferent to you, then you don't tell him anything about yourself. So Advaitavadis are those who are like indifferent people. Because whole Advaitavad, whole path of Gyan is based on Vairagya, on renunciation, on giving up all attachment. They don't want to have any relationships. So then God also doesn't want to have any relationship. And if you don't want to have any relationship, then he is Brahman, because you cannot have any relationship with him. Because Brahman neither talks nor walks, nor he eats. So there is no arti, there is no puja, there is no kirtan. None of these things are possible. You can just sit quietly and keep shut, which is good, because you don't make trouble for anybody. But if you can do that, it's not easy. And the other is that you have kirtan, you have arti, you have worship, you can read, you can sing, you can dance, and ultimately you can have nice prasad. So which one is preferable? So that's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about Karma Yoga, he speaks about Jnana Yoga, he speaks about Bhakti Yoga. But then his preference was for Bhakti Yoga. Ultimately he says, Man manam bhav mad bhakta, madhyaji mam namaskar. So he says this is his most confidential message. Sarva guhya tamam bhuya, shruno me paramam vacha. He says this is my supreme statement. My ultimate conclusion is that become my devotee. He did not say become jnani. So he is not against jnanis, but he is explaining what is the difference between one and two. So we should understand this, that we are not against Advaitavad, but that is not our path. We are not interested. So this is basically Advaitava. And then of course there are details to it. If various questions are raised that if Brahman is the only reality, then what about us? Why so much variety exists for that? So then we have to bring the concept of Maya, that this is all dream. So those are all then details, but this is the basic concept. You can understand that. Anybody has any question on that? So it may be a little difficult, but it's little technical, Brahman and Bhagavan, but we should know this. So we should know that these two words, Brahman and Bhagavan, they have different meaning. They are not same. Although they are same, but still they have a different connotation. So here in the material world also, you can have different understanding of the same person, right? Different people have different understanding of the same person. The way your family people look at you and the way your co-workers look at you or the way your neighbor looks at you, they are different. If you ask these three different type of people, they will give different opinions about you. You are the same person, but their experience is different. And they speak on the basis of their own experience. But there may be somebody who knows all the three aspects of it. So that person would have complete knowledge of it. So therefore, if you can understand the absolute reality as manifest in Brahman and Bhagavan, and there is one more called Paramatma. I don't want to go into that detail. So then that person has the complete understanding. But one who knows him as Brahman only, then that understanding is limited. So then they have to deny the Bhagavan aspect. And why Advaitavad is appealing to people, there are different reasons for that. One is that it is very satisfying to our ego. After all, I am Brahman. So you don't have to surrender to anybody. Why Bhakti is not so appealing? Because in Bhakti they say, well, you have to become a servant. And who wants that? So that is because of our material experience. Because in our material experience is that we don't want to be servants. But in the spiritual world, sometimes what happens that what is the lowest in the material can be highest in the spiritual world. Because this material world is upside down. Urdhmulam, Adha Shakha, Asvartham, Prahur, Avaya. So here nobody wants to be the servant, everybody wants to be the boss. In the spiritual world, nobody wants to be the boss, including the boss himself. Even Krishna doesn't want to be the boss. Krishna says that I am controlled by my devotees. So, Vasi Kurvanti Mam Bhaktya. So he says that my devotees are the one who are controlling. He is the supreme controller, but he is also controlled by his devotees. So in the spiritual world, there is a competition to be the servant of the servant of the servant. Gopi Bhartu Padkamalayor Das Dasami Das. Nobody wants to be boss there because actually being boss is not such a fun as people think. After some time, you get bored with it. The real fun is when you can serve someone out of love. And in the spiritual world, because everybody is full of love, so they just want to serve. So Krishna is also not God there. He is also serving. He's playing with his friends. He's doing service to his parents. And he's happy that way. He does not want to be known as God. It's the beauty. So Krishna is very scared that people in Braj can come to know of him as Bhagavan. Because then they will start worshipping him and he doesn't want that. Because who likes this worship? Because worship creates distance. Right? If you worship somebody, then you have to maintain distance from that person. And we want to be intimate. Because real fun is in intimacy, not in distance. So God himself does not want to have that distance. It is because some people want to have that, then he takes that position. But that is not his preference. As he gives his word that as you approach to me, then I will reciprocate with you. So if you want to worship him, then he becomes worshipable. Otherwise, that is not fun for him. It's very boring all the time standing. And imagine all the time standing with the club in your hand, this heavy thing, and you have to be this way. You cannot play, you cannot smile, you cannot joke. I mean, can you imagine that Lord Vishnu is cutting a joke? All his devotees will think something is wrong with him. What has happened to him? They won't believe it. They will not smile, first of all. If Vishnu cracks a joke, nobody will smile. Because they never believe that he's going to cut a joke. So you don't see Vishnu smiling. You don't see Lord Buddha smiling. Have you seen Buddha smiling? No, he's always sitting very serious, grave. And have you seen Krishna serious? He's always smiling. He's always joking, having fun. If he becomes serious, people think something gone wrong with him. So this is the difference. So now you can imagine this is the difference between Vishnu and Krishna, and what to speak when you go to Brahman. There is no possibility of smile there. Brahman does not have a form. Where is the smile? Smile is miles away. There is no smile. So therefore, Krishna himself says that path of bhakti is the heart of his instruction. And this is the essence of the Vedas. Before he says, Vedaisya sarvair ahameva vedya. Vedanta krita veda vedasya. Krishna says that from all the Vedas, only I am to be known, not Brahman. He did not say, Vedaisya sarvair brahma eva vedya. He could have said that from all the Vedas, only Brahman has to be known. He says, no. He says, from all the Vedas, I am to be known. And how he says Vedanta Krita. I am the author of Vedanta. And Veda Vidasyam, I am the knower of the Vedas. So the knower of the Veda himself says that from Vedas he has to be known. So why are we arguing unnecessarily? We're wasting our time. Somebody who is the author of the book tells you that this book is about this particular subject. And he said, no, I don't accept you. I'm going to do my own analysis. So you can do it. And if your analysis does not match with the intention of the author, then obviously you have missed the point. So Krishna himself says, Vyasa himself says, but we don't want to accept that. So why Advaitava also has these ideas? Because what happens is that we have our own experience of form. And our own experience of the form is that number one, form is limited. And number two, form is temporal. Right? Everybody knows this, that you are limited. If you are in this room, you cannot be in the other room. And your lifespan is limited. Whether you believe it or not believe it, but it's a fact. You took birth and you have to die. So therefore they think that if God has a form, then God will become limited. And absolute reality cannot be limited. So therefore they say God cannot have form. And this is also the problem with all these Abrahamic religions. They're also hung up on this. But the thing is that God, if you accept that He is absolute reality, why is that He cannot have a form and be unlimited? Why are you trying to apply your logic on Him? Your logic is very limited. Your mind is very limited. But God is not limited. So God actually can have form and be unlimited. And this is what he showed when he broke the pot. You know the story, Krishna breaking the pot of Mother Yashoda. And then Yashoda was trying to bind him with ropes. So she was unable to bind him. Why? Because you will think that he is small baby, why I cannot bind? That's what Mother Yashoda thought. But Krishna said that my mummy, you should know, I'm not a little boy. I am a little boy, but I am also not little boy. So she tried with all the ropes, and coward people have a lot of ropes. So all these ropes could not bind Krishna, because the only thing which can bind him is love. So therefore it is said that Drishtva Parishramam Krishna Kripya Asit Swabha. That when Krishna saw that the mother has worked so hard and she wants to bind me, then he became merciful and he became bound by love. Swabandha. So he showed that he is unlimited, yet he has a form. So this is called Achintya. This is called inconceivable. Absolute reality cannot be conceived by our material mind, because our material mind can only conceive things which are material. And absolute reality is not material, therefore our mind cannot conceive it. So this is what Krishna showed, that I have a form, I am unlimited. So we should not worry that if God has a form, then he becomes limited. No, that's not true. So God has a form and yet he is not limited. God has a form and yet his form is not temporary like us. So that's why it's called Sat Chid Ananda. Sat means eternal. Chit means conscious. Ananda means bliss. So he has an eternal form. Now we have never heard, we do not have any experience of any form being eternal. All our experiences of form are that forms are limited and they are temporary. Nobody has ever seen any eternal form in this material world. So therefore we think God should not have a form because he is eternal. So that is where the mistake comes in thinking. If we want to know God, we cannot just know him by our logic. We have to listen to God himself, what he has to say about himself. If I'm just going to apply my logic, then my logic can be wrong. So therefore Vedanta Sutra says Tarko Apratisthana. Yoni Sabdatva. So he is to be known from Shabda. He is to be understood from the revealed scriptures. Logic is not sufficient because logic has its limitation. Our mind has limitation. You can give one logic, I will counter it with another logic. And then you can counter my logic with another logic. There's never going to be an end to logic. Who can think more finely can come up with another idea. So God is not limited by logic only. He is beyond logic. But he is not illogical. So he is supralogical. So there are logical things, there are illogical things, and there are supralogical things. So God is beyond logic. So therefore, just putting your logic, that does not mean anything. If you want to understand absolute reality, then you have to listen to those people who have experience of that absolute reality. You have no experience of absolute reality and then you put your logic. By logic, you can understand material things. In fact, logic fails even in material things. The dualistic nature of light, logic does not work. Anything which is a particle cannot be a wave, because wave and particle have contradictory characteristics. Wave is not localized and wave does not have a mass. And particle is localized and particle have a mass. So something which is wave cannot be particle, and something which is particle cannot be a wave. But scientists are baffled by this fact that how is it possible? So even matter is not always logical. At our level, our empirical level, at the Newtonian physics level, things may seem logical, but when you come to quantum level, it's not logical. You cannot pinpoint an electron at a point in time where it is going to be. You can only give a probability. It can move from point A to point B, and if you calculate with its speed, it is impossible that it could have moved. Your logic fails. If electron is moving and electron has a speed, then in time t, when you can calculate where it is going to be. But when it is seen practically, it can be actually at a distance which is impossible to move in that much time. So this is the experience, and you cannot deny that, and your logic fails. So God is teaching this to the scientists that don't think that you can know me simply by logic. But they are not waking up yet. Maybe one day. So our sages, they already understood this. And therefore they said that logic is not sufficient to understand the absolute reality, Sabdhyonitva. So he is Shabdhyoni. His knowledge comes from the Shabda or the message given by those who have experienced that. That is the only way. That is the only proof. Because your senses, your mind do not have the ability to understand that. So if you say, give me proof, but how can I give proof to you? Suppose somebody is deaf, cannot hear, and then he says, give me proof that the ragas exist. How would you prove it? How would you prove to a deaf person that there is music? Can you prove it? No. Because that person does not have the sense by which proof can be understood. So our mind does not have the ability to have proof of Atma or Paramatma or the absolute reality. So we have no choice but to accept it. If you don't want to accept it, that's your choice. But if you are inquisitive, then that is the only way possible. Whether you like it or you don't like it. So is it clear why Advaitavadis said it has no form? This is the reasoning behind it, because they think form is limited and temporal.
I got a question for this. There was a consensus out, I don't know who's it done by, but they say in Hinduism, by volume, the vast majority are Vaishnava. But in sort, the vast majority have embraced Advaitavad. And then if we see Adi Shankara, who's the pioneer behind Advaitavad, how and why was such translations created, and how is it that it's so prominent within Hinduism?
So prominent because it appeals to logic, that's what I'm saying. Even in the West, people who study Indology or who study Indian religion, they are primarily Advaitavadis because it appeals to logic. The concept of Achintya or inconceivability does not appeal to logic, and mind wants to understand everything logical. Especially now, the modern education is based on that aspect. So therefore, it does not appeal. That is one reason. Another reason is that it appeals to your ego also. Because you don't have to surrender to anybody, don't have to serve anybody, and that's what I am anyway. My upbringing is to be the boss. Everybody is looking for a promotion, isn't it? And the highest promotion is when you become the highest boss. So beyond everything is that I am Brahman, boss of all bosses. So if I tell you that actually you are Brahman, and what can be more appealing than that? So it appeals to logic and it appeals to ego. For it's accepted by people. When it comes to Bhakti, it is not appealing to logic and it is not appealing to your ego. But it is more pleasurable. That's why you see this. It's more fun. So in India, Advaitava actually is not so popular as people think. Wherever you go, you see temples. So it is only the scholarly people. But common masses are not into Advaitava. Worship, puja, kirtan, prasad, everybody likes. Even children can do kirtan, but you try to explain to a child what logic, logic is the child going to understand. All this Advaitava, did it make any sense to you? No. She's getting bored. She's thinking, when is this guy going to stop? Got bored, right? He's feeling shy, but actually that's a fact. All the children are getting bored here. Maybe the grown-ups also. Okay, so is it clear, the distinction? Anybody has any question on this? So you want Advaitva, that is also there. You want Bhakti, that is also there. Choice is yours. You want rasa or you don't want rasa?